Welcome, everyone. Hello, and thanks so much for joining us at Coalesce. It's my pleasure to be introducing the workshop today. My name is Allie Dericles, and I'm a partner manager here at DBT Labs. And I'll be the host of the workshop, Buried Alive, Refactoring an Inherited Project. So today we'll be learning about refactoring with two outstanding experts. We have Lauren Benezra, an analytics engineer here at DBT Labs, and Christine Berger, a senior analytics engineer here at DBT Labs. So both Lauren and Christine are passionate about cats and creating structure from chaos. With backgrounds in applied mathematics and database design, Lauren and Christine both landed in the wonderful world of data. We're lucky to have them here at DBT Labs. So before we begin, I just want to share quick notes on how you can participate in this session. We encourage interaction throughout today's workshop. All chat conversation is taking place in DBT Slack in the Coalesce Workshop Buried Alive channel. So if you haven't joined the Slack channel already, now is a really good time to do so. And to get started and get the chat warmed up, I invite you to introduce yourself, let us know where you're calling in from, and if you love or dislike refactoring. After the session, Lauren and Christine will be available in the channel to answer any questions that we can't get to in the Q&A today. So let's begin. I'll pass it over to Lauren and Christine.
Hey, everyone. All right, so I'm going to just start with this slide really quickly. Just want to say go into the channel if you're not set up and follow those instructions so you can follow along. But we're going to get started. So just doing some introductions really quickly. I'm Christine Berger. I'm a senior analytics engineer at DBT Labs. I've been at DBT Labs for about 3 years, and that is my cat, Nebula.
And I'm Lauren Benezra. I'm an analytics engineer at DBT Labs. I've been with DBT Labs for 1.5 years, and that is my cat, Pewter.
And he can't see.
And he can't see. Yeah, he doesn't have eyeballs.
So let's set up our scenario. I want you to pretend that you've been handed a DBT project, or maybe think back to maybe it's now. Maybe you have been handed a DBT project, and it's a complete mess, but you don't really know where to start. That's kind of where we want to go with you, is where do you start with that project and figuring out how to refactor it? So full disclosure that we're not actually going to be getting into code and refactoring code. There's a course for that, so stay tuned till the end so you can find out what that link is. But we're going to talk about everything around that. So 3 parts. Part 1, we're going to talk about inspecting the project. Part 2, we're going to plan our strategy. And then part 3, we're just going to quickly learn how we can level up our refactoring skills. So let's get into the project overview. Has anyone seen this before? What does this look like? Has anyone been able to generate this? It's a DAG. So in DBT Cloud and even in DBT Core, you can generate your documentation, and you can have this lineage of like your models. And for us on the professional services team, whenever we do a lot of refactoring, this is really like the first stop for us. There's a lot of information that we get out of this DAG before we ever look at code. The code can come later. So that's kind of where we're going to go here. Whenever we look at the DAG, we're looking for patterns, and I've got 4 patterns here that I'll talk about, but sorry, that got way louder. But I've got 4 patterns that we're going to talk about here. And what I want you to do is generate the documentation if you don't know how. The instructions are in the Slack channel. But I want you to go into that DBT Cloud account, generate the DAG, and look for these patterns. So the very first pattern is having sources. So actually, Lauren, I'm going to come over here. You have nodes here, which are green, and that's your raw data coming into your project, and it's just being joined directly, and we don't want that. I won't get into why we don't want that, but what we want to see is raw data coming in, and then we want a model for each one, and then we want to use it because we want to kind of like centralize how that data is being used after we clean it up. We don't want everyone to use it in different ways. The second pattern is rejoining the same data sets over and over again. So if you notice on the right-hand side, there's 2 nodes. They're both actually joining in the same data sets from the left. And that's just extra processing for your warehouse. So you don't want unnecessary joins in your project. So instead, at the bottom, you want to see one model which joins together those 2 ideas, and then you want to reuse that. The third one, if you see like there's like kind of like a little loop, I know it might be hard to see, but joining a dependency of a dependency, if the node on the right, you can see that it's like taking data from a model up at the top, like in the middle, but it's also taking data from like this one has data, right? It's coming into that model, and it's now flowing into this node, so that node shouldn't have to go back to this one to get that data. So that tells us that somebody made that model, and they were very selective of the columns, and they left out some data. We want to make everything very flexible, so we could remove that one line there at the bottom and make it flow a lot nicer. And then the ending one, ending models, and I put it in quotes because we don't actually know what our ending models are in that project. The names aren't great, but we can assume what the models are that our stakeholders use. And they shouldn't be, those models shouldn't be selecting directly from the raw data. That's super bad. If the raw data changes, it's gonna impact that model directly. And so our stakeholder is gonna see that change immediately. So just like I talked about with these, where we want kind of like this layer where we can centralize transformations, we want that on this one as well. The pink node's signifying like what we want to see, the change that we want to see.
How many people have seen any of these patterns in their DAGs? Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Okay, so your job, we're gonna give you about, we're gonna just maybe take a few answers here. As you're looking at that DAG, I want you to tell me what you're seeing in that DAG for our project.
And if you're having trouble generating the DAG, raise your hand and we can have a TA come over and help.
Mm-hmm. Don't be shy. What do you see? Yeah, let me try and go back. I know this one is really hard to see, but this is the DAG. Yeah, so there is pretty much all of those in there, like you said. We'll actually go past this. So I'm gonna go ahead and highlight the things that we said in those patterns. So this is joining sources directly. Lost revenue is just taking customers' line items and orders directly and joining them. But also order line items is doing that, and what's gonna happen is lost revenue and order line items is probably making like a very important concept there of like orders and line items, but whatever transformations, whatever calculations are related to that relationship are probably different in those 2 models. We also have rejoining the same data sets. I'm sorry if I'm like, if my voice is like getting louder and quieter. But yeah, these 2 models, they're taking nation, part, suppliers, regions, and suppliers. Min supply cost is joining them, but so is the Europe low-cost brass suppliers. Why do we need to do that? One of them could join it, and then the other one could just use the data set. And then we have that circle. So the UK model is taking suppliers. So a fun activity maybe later, if you want to go into that UK model and kind of see what is it trying to do that's outside of what the Europe one does. Like, that's a good exercise. I already know the answer, and actually the answer is in the walkthrough on the repo. So if you want to go look at that, that would be a good test. And then possible ending models, selecting from the source. So again, the naming here doesn't really tell us anything, and that's probably another place that we could refactor something, is just making better names. But I'm assuming that those are models that are being surfaced to our stakeholders, and those are just, I mean, I could just give my stakeholders the raw data if I wanted to. All right, gonna hand it over to Lauren.
Awesome. All right, so what we're gonna do, and what we spend a lot of our time doing, is actually planning a refactor rather than just diving in. How many people go into their DAG and they're like, I know how to fix this, and then they immediately start changing the code? 2 people? No one else does that? Okay, yeah, you can admit it. We've all done it. It's bad. Don't do that. It's much better to go in and start creating a design and know what you're aiming for when you're going through your DAG, right? You want to plan for the big picture, not just this one model is broken and it's got crappy code, so let me go in and fix it right now. Plan for the big picture. You'll be happy you did later. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, if you have already gotten a room assigned to you in Whimsical, you can go and jump into that room. We're gonna go outside of DBT. I know it's a scary, scary thing, but go ahead and there's a link in the Slack, and open that up for Whimsical and choose a room. There should be 15 different rooms that you can choose from, so grab a spot in Whimsical. And what we're gonna do is, outside of DBT, we're going to actually start doing this design. So I'm gonna actually do this and jump into DBT Cloud. So this is the flow that we're gonna look through. If you double click this UK low-cost brass suppliers, you'll be able to see this particular DAG. You can expand this and actually look at this detail. And in Whimsical, you can choose a room, and let me make this small. Cool, and this is what you'll see in Whimsical. I'll make this smaller. Awesome, can everyone see this? Is it too small? There we go, okay. So this is the same DAG, and this is exactly what we do as professional services analytics engineers. We go into something like Whimsical, or sometimes we use Google Slides. But there's a lot of different tools that you can use. In Whimsical, you can actually recreate these DAGs, and that's incredibly helpful to redesign something. So once you've gotten into your room in Whimsical, you can actually copy this gray box and just paste it somewhere in the page. Can everyone do that? Is everyone in Whimsical? Is anyone not in Whimsical? Okay, if you're having trouble, raise your hand. We can have a TA come over and help. But go ahead and copy this. Yeah, we should see a bunch of people floating around. Fantastic. Okay, cool. So what we want to do is try to redesign based on the things that Christine mentioned. We want to avoid raw source references, right? We want to create that staging layer in between the raw sources and our later models. What else do we want to see? Anyone have ideas of why this is a terrible, terrible DAG?
I'm going to call somebody's name.
Yeah, there's rejoining. We hate that, right? What is this? What is this min supply cost doing? That's just madness. If you're already creating all of those joins later on, why would you need to have a separate model to do that little min piece? Right? Again, we haven't even looked at the code, and this is exactly how analytics engineers at DBT Labs, this is how we work, right? We go in and we don't look at the code quite yet, but we try to redesign based on scalability. That's the idea. So yeah, we want to not have this rejoin. What about this one over here, this suppliers, and then going to this UK brass suppliers, right? That's what we call circular logic. Why are we referencing this twice? That's madness. Awesome. Okay, so go ahead and yeah, copy and paste it. Try to redesign. If you've never used Whimsical before, raise your hand. We can have someone come over and help. Help over here. Help over here. Help over here. Oh. This is exciting. Whimsical should give me a sponsorship. That's what's going on. Is Whimsical open source? I wish. There's a free tier, so you can use it. I have run into the 3,000 object limit. So you got to watch for that. But if you're redesigning a ton, like you're a consultant, then yeah, you may run into that paywall.
We could also talk about other diagramming tools while everybody's. You definitely don't have to listen if you're busy diagramming, but in the repository there is a resources folder. It has a README with all of the diagramming tools that me and Lauren painstakingly researched and demoed for this. A favorite of mine for this type of work is Mermaid.js. It's just very fast, but everything has its pros and cons. Mermaid is, it's not good for like huge DAGs. It's good for small bits of work.
All right. Yeah, people are doing it. Yay! You guys are doing great. All right. Cool. Can anyone raise their hand and tell me why a staging layer is super important? You probably hear DBT Labs people talk about staging layers all the time. Yes?
I've seen it useful for reconciling deleted rows from resources.
Love this. Yeah, absolutely. What else? Consistent naming. Yeah, that's huge, right? I don't know if you've all ever worked with biologists, but they really like Excel and Google Sheets. And guess who names every column something slightly different in every single sheet? No shade to biologists, but it's just, hard habit to break. Any questions as you're going through this refactor? Oh, yes. You can also feel free to rename this stuff, right? It doesn't need to be named your low-cost brass suppliers, right? Rename it, yeah. Figure out what your naming convention is, figure out what kind of models you want to actually build. Should your last one be UK low-cost brass suppliers? I don't know, that seems like a long name. Yeah, and again, do you need that min supply cost in a separate model? Can anyone guess what that min supply cost actually is doing? I know we haven't looked at the code. Just based on the name, assuming that someone named it appropriately. Yes. So if you're doing a minimum, that means you're aggregating something, which means that you have this model that is now changing the grain of your data. Once you're changing the grain, you're doing some messy stuff, and then people can't use that for all of the other things they want to do with the data that's in there, right? So what you would want to do is actually move that into, sorry, no pressure to Victoria. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Did not mean to stress anyone out. Okay, yeah, what you would really want to do is merge this into this model, and not necessarily your low-cost brass suppliers, but instead you'd want to probably do some sort of an intermediate model, right? Or even a dim model. Oh my gosh. Can anyone tell me what a dim model is? These are all analytics engineers. Yeah, short and wide, right? We're getting information. It is our noun. So we want to know what a supplier is and all of the information associated with it. Now, would that include minimum supply cost? But can you add the aggregation to your wide model? I would say yes. Now, you may end up with a little bit of redundancy, right? Is that bad if you have this beautiful table that has all the answers? No. Sometimes you have to sacrifice a little bit in order to get something that is super usable, right? And that's part of this bigger design. Okay, how are y'all feeling about refactoring via the DAG? Thumbs up? People are good? People are happy? Okay, well, all right.
All right, let me get this up real quick. this is what me and Lauren came up with. We just have we have some best practices that we follow all the time in naming conventions. We have this idea of staging layer that Lauren talked about, where we centralize what we're doing with each table. So like in suppliers, let's just say like all of these tables have ID as like the unique key. We want to rename those to like the entity underscore ID. So like suppliers underscore ID, and then everybody else uses it that way down the line. So we have all this, and then finally we join it, and it seems super simple, but we know things aren't that simple. We have to start thinking about our logic and like how we're going to get into the code, and like how are we going to move that around, because that's really where you can mess some stuff up. So we're going to talk about core versus analytics logic. Honestly, I just came up with these names. If you think of like a better name for it, I'm happy to hear it. Core logic, the way that I think about it is that it's often referred to as solid business logic. If anyone's like taken like some programming, like data type classes, like you might have heard of this. They're usually highly agreed upon transformations for data, so everybody agrees, like, yes, that is the right definition. And they're unlikely to change without more conversation. If you changed it, somebody would be like, why did you change that? Like, that's how we actually define that thing. Analytics logic, it's more volatile. The requirements can change very often. It's created from needs of the business at a specific point in time. So we might want to look at a certain thing, a certain campaign right now, but tomorrow we may not care about that anymore. We may want to look at something else. Definitions, they could be unique to a line of business. It could be a particular team looking at something, or it could be just a specific person's day-to-day. At my old job, I had like the person who handled like finances, that she just wanted like a certain view of something. It really wasn't for anybody to view except for her. So now that we kind of have that separation, I want to kind of talk about how we pick this apart in our code. But I'm using Business Cat here, and he has a request. So he says, we need to know which dentists are using our product, have the most traffic for cleaning, so we can try to strike up a deal for our new whitening solution. And I'm just gonna kind of like highlight some words here for the key ideas. I think like as analysts or data people, you kind of pick up on these words to try and form like how you're gonna start putting things together. So dentist, product, most traffic, cleanings, those are words that I key in on whenever I'm trying to think about how am I gonna build this thing, this request. But I also put it into categories. So like core logic, the relationship between dentist and product, that's something that will probably never change. And also traffic, probably. We'll probably always be tracking traffic, and it'll probably always have some relationship to those things. But whenever it comes to analytics logic, the word most and the word cleanings is kind of like a subcategory of products. So to me, somebody could come to me with this request, but say like, I want the least traffic for walk-ins, and it would be almost the same thing, but those things have changed. So now I'm gonna ask you to look at this. I'm gonna highlight what's important to us. So Business Cat, you gave him the report, and he's like, actually the report you gave me is showing unverified appointments, and it's throwing our numbers way off. We don't care about unverified appointments. So obviously the sentence that we care about is we don't care about unverified appointments. So tell me if you think that that's core logic or analytics logic. Somebody said core. Why do you say that? Okay. Okay. Okay.
The word is kind of ambiguous, which means it probably is non-ambiguous in this message and has some definition that everyone knows.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right, go ahead. Okay. Anyone on this side of the room? Yeah. I'm going to use that as a segue. That was perfect. Yeah, so like you heard that everybody has a different idea of what this could be. So that's where it like really, that's where it's like unique to you. There's some things that are for sure like probably 95% is core logic that you would put in DBT, no problem. And then there's like that other 5% that it makes you question like, should I put this in DBT? Should I put it in Looker? Maybe I have it in DBT, but I don't know, like you don't know how often it's gonna change, right? So it's core logic if you go and you do your research, because chances are if you have questions like this, like what does it mean? You're gonna go and start talking to stakeholders to figure out what they mean. So if they say, oh, actually it's just a known thing that like, that's just bad data, then yeah, that's core logic. You're gonna remove that. If it's analytics logic, Business Cat is going to say, oh, actually, I do look at unverified appointments. It's good for other things. I just don't want to see it right now. Okay, so that brings us to our next assignment. So everybody click on that decluttering exercise link. Or actually, there should be a folder if you've walked in. And it just says decluttering exercise. So let me see if I can find that.
It is in Whimsical.
Yeah.
Does anyone have a business cat in their life who
Very
asks
sassy
you
cat.
really ambiguous questions? Elise does. Yeah, Zola, she does that. Shout out to Zola.
Yep, so same thing that we did with the diagramming exercise. You can copy this whole part here. In the middle, I've pulled out some of the logic that I found within our UK flow that we were focusing on. And I want you to, we're doing like, what is that show called again? I always forget, the HGTV show.
We're doing an HGTV show with
Yeah,
refactoring.
that's what
it's
it is,
similar
yeah.
to hoarding, you know, something
Yeah.
like that.
So we're putting out a tarp, like get rid of it or keep it, except
right.
it's just like core logic or analytics logic.
Is anyone here a Marie Kondo fan? You should all be raising your hands because you're analytics engineers. Make this small. How many people are upset because we haven't even looked at the code? Okay.
Come talk to us later.
The point of this is to make sure that you understand that you don't have to dig deep into the code in order to make some good design choices and in order to understand what should be core logic, what should be analytics logic, what should go in your BI layer, what should go in, you know, DBT specifically.
I feel that like a lot of our work, we don't actually get into the coding until way later. We
Yeah.
look at the DAG and we think about all these things before, because once you have your path laid out, it's much easier to like make little changes here and there versus like trying to think of that on the fly.
Do we have any consultants in the room? Cool.
With you.
Yeah. What's really hard is, you know, we're going into a project with no context. I hear giggles, yeah. Imagine going deep into code and not knowing what any of the columns mean. More giggles. It is very scary. And that's what we mean by buried alive, right? You are given something that is a bit of a rat's nest, and you don't know what any of it means. So the best way to kind of pull yourself out of that is exactly this, is to think about the bigger picture, design, understand the different core concepts, and then you can untangle that rat's nest from there. You can do the same thing if you're not a consultant, but you may have better luck because you know the context of your business.
I feel like it's a lot easier too to draw out your roadmap, and then you can piece out the work, like in Jira tickets or wherever you're keeping track of your tasks. where if you just run into it, you're always like discovering things that you have to do, and you're always adding tasks.
How's everyone feel on this?
Yeah. Anyone need any help?
Does anyone have questions on this exercise?
Sweet. Okay. I think I'm going to stop the timer. Feel free to keep working, but I'm going to go ahead and move on. Okay. So this is what we have. I'm going to actually like come over here and talk because I've been paying attention to that side. Okay, so pretty much everything that's like a relationship, parts and part suppliers and part suppliers. You know, these like PSS, like it's really hard to know what those are, but nation and regions. Like all of the relationships to me are just like solid business logic. The part type like brass, that kind of tells me that the raw data doesn't have like a category, right? They have to do this regex to figure it out. And now I'm imagining like somebody in Looker constantly calculating that all the time to try and find the rows that they want. So in DBT, what we would do is we would just supply a nicer category, and it would be in those staging models. So like case when something is like something, then brass or steel or whatever it could be. And then in the BI layer, or like, you know, in, I'm just gonna say like Looker, Tableau, or Mode, then the person who's actually trying to make the report can just say, I'm gonna filter with that nicer category. I just want brass parts, and they don't have to know regex or anything like that. And then where part supplier cost is equal to the lowest in region. What I imagine there is that it's a window function of some sort, and it's just a flag. We're not changing the grain. We're not going to filter out any data because we want to keep our models flexible. So it's just going to be a flag that says, yes, this part does have a low cost. And then the person in the BI layer can just filter to those rows if that's important. Just going to plug this in. So this is the full refactor idea that me and Lauren came up with. It's pretty crazy, and I will say that you can make this, and it's totally okay if once you start refactoring, it doesn't come out the way that you thought it was going to come out. But the idea here is that you have a roadmap, and you can show people your roadmap, and you can tell them, like, this is what I think we should do, and here's why. And that has more impact than you just saying, I want to refactor a project, and not having any visual thing to show them. If you go check this out, it should be on your slides if you're following along. But there are notes about why we made certain decisions here. Okay. This is about to be over to Lauren, but I'll set it up. So Lauren taught everybody how to refactor, and she comes over to you months later at Coalesce, and she's like, how are you doing on your refactor? And you're just like kind of crying because you had a lot of staging models and you're still not done making staging models. So you just kind of give the thumbs up because you don't want Lauren to know that you're not cool.
How many people have made a staging model with Select Star from your source? Elise? You're in trouble. Who else? Admit it. Just admit it. You did it. You didn't write out the columns. Why? Why didn't you write out the columns? Lazy? Yeah, why else?
Because of db util star.
Oh, so you use dbt util star. That's still star. That still counts as star. Okay.
I want to know how many people bashed on staging models whenever they read about our staging model rule.
Yeah. So who has not written out the columns and just done a select star or a dbt util star? Admit it. Please admit it. Please admit it. I'm writing all your names down. Okay. Why is it bad? Someone tell me why it's upsetting to do a staging model and not do anything, not put your column names in there. You guys know why it's bad. Come on, admit it. Huh? What? Yeah. You're absolutely right. Yeah, the point of a staging model, why we harp on it so much, is that it's crucial for those universal light transformations. The idea is that you are renaming columns so that everyone who is using that staging layer knows what the column name is. What a treat. That's lovely, right? Also, you can do some super fun like case when logic in there. You can build in some stuff as long as it doesn't change the grain of the data, unless you're working with JSON stuff. Don't even get me started on that. Okay, so we are not done with our refactor because we all did a terrible job and did a select star in our staging models. Did anyone take the the packages workshop yesterday or the day before? I don't even know what day it is.
Shout out
Cool.
to Elise.
Okay, awesome. Has anyone worked with Cogen? Awesome. Did it save you so much time in your refactor? Yeah, that's the right answer. Thank you. Applause is necessary. Cool. Yeah, it's really awesome. So if you go to hub.getdbt.com, you can see a package built by DBT Labs called Cogen. It will build your staging models for you with every column. I know, it's really exciting. Okay, so let's do it. If we go out of this and go into DBT Cloud, your project will already have Cogen in it, okay? And you can see that in the packages.yaml. If you haven't run dbt deps and it's giving you an error, please run dbt deps. You should know how to do that to install packages. If you are having trouble, please raise your hand. TA will come over. But the idea is we want to put in Cogen here and we want to use it. So I have put this code in the resources. So if you go into, if you just look at this code and copy this Cogen bit. So this is in Jinja. It is Cogen.generate base model and then a source name and the table name supplier. I just grabbed that one, okay? Grab that code, type it in, or grab it from, copy and paste it from the slides. And you're gonna copy and paste it into a new tab, okay? You can also save that tab if you want. You can put it anywhere, you can just open up a new tab, copy and paste it. Can anyone tell me who has used Cogen before how we get the result of this? Do I push preview? Oh, thank you. You push compile. So preview is not going to help you here because all you want is the underlying SQL. Now I've opened up a new tab. I've put in this fun Jinja block right here and outspits every column that I really, really, really don't want to type for you. You get to copy and paste that code into a staging model and you never have to type a column name again. What's up? It is absolutely in core. You can use it in core. Questions on this? I feel like there should be more enthusiasm. I've just told you how to cheat. Yeah, sweet. Cheating is awesome. Cool. Okay, great. You can do that, and that will help you with all of your staging models. You now have no excuse. You should never be doing a select star in a staging model, right? Everyone agrees? Sweet.
We better not see it.
We better not see it. If I see it, whew. All right.
Okay. Let me check on time here and just make sure, because we do got to be on time. Okay. So there were a few people that did the packages workshop. So who knows about Audit Helper, whether or not you joined the packages workshop? Anybody heard of it? A couple people. All right, so I'll just kind of tell you about it. So whenever we're doing a refactor, it's super important to make sure that whatever you change matches 100% to the result set that you created. That was already there. So Audit Helper is a package that lets you do that, and it's super quick. But it's not that quick, because what happens is you go and make your changes, then you go and get your Audit Helper snippet, you run that, you find out something's wrong, then you go back to your code, and you're kind of doing like this back and forth. So that's why this cat is so frazzled. He's done many audit runs and is tired of switching back and forth. So it does look like we probably have enough time to spend on this. So if you check out the branch example audit tests, then you can go into there and then follow these instructions. I'll let you read. Give you about 5 minutes to do this, and then we'll go on. All right. So I'm actually going to pull it up here too, just so I'm not awkwardly standing on stage. So I'm going to change my branch here to the example auditing branch. Actually, I think this is the wrong branch. I think it was audit tests. Awesome. And then in the auditing code, there are these. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually pull those down into this test folder. If I can move this. Let's see if I can pull this down. Yeah, there we go. And this might be familiar if you've already done the packages workshop. All right, so I'm going to kind of explain this a little bit. What we've done is a combo skill. So we know how to make tests. We know how to use packages. So we combine them. So we're using Audit Helper. And Audit Helper, whenever you're doing the comparison between the two tables, you can actually choose to see a summary, which is how much does it match? Just tell me real quick. Or you can do details, where it shows you row by row what's different, and it stacks them. So we're utilizing that functionality to give us these full details. And tests are really simple. Test, if you don't have any rows returned, then it passes. If you do have rows returned, then it fails. So the whole idea of writing a test is that you want to return rows that you don't want to see. So that's what we're doing with Audit Helper here, is we're just making it return rows that we don't want to see, which is super easy with that summarize equals false whenever we use it. So if we do have any differences, it's going to return rows, and it's going to fail. From that point on, we just have to do dbt build -s our model. It'd be I forgot what the model's called. Hang on a sec. Yeah, so reports and suppliers. Actually, I did both of these, and I'll tell you why. You always want to run your old model and your new model at the same time, so that way you can get rid of any timestamp differences.
Has anyone noticed that you can copy the file name in the new IDE?
And close all tabs to the right.
You can use those 3 dots next to a model name, and there's an option, open mouth. Yeah, it's really exciting. It is a game changer.
All right.
Are you in the new IDE? Benny's going to help you.
All right, I'm going to move on. I did have some errors, and I did forget to add a detail there, but it should have said it in the instructions. You have to do a dbt run to make sure all your models are what's on your current branch. Otherwise, you're going to get some errors. But now I ran it, and my Audit Helper should work. But I'm going to move on. All right, you're done. How's everyone feel about this, even though we didn't get into code, really? Elise says thumbs up. This cat is just ready to slay the dag, and that's why he's coming out of that cabinet, just smacking him. But actually, you probably guessed it. That was just a small portion of refactoring, and if it's something that you're really, oh yeah, sorry, Lauren, thank you. If it's something that you're really interested in, we actually have next steps here. A 1-hour workshop isn't going to cover it. So definitely go check out the bonus slides, and I'm sorry, but I do have to show you this because I just want to see this on the screens. So this is your bonus pack, and I want you to go here to figure out how you can have more combo skills. Sorry, that's the wrong one. Yep, take that on-demand refactoring course. That actually does take you through code. And this project is terrible. So
It's really the worst. I got really angry trying to refactor it.
It was annoying. So come back after that refactoring course and actually try it on this one. This is really a representation of projects that we see. And tell us how it works out. Tell
Yeah,
us if
tell
you
us
lose your
what a
mind.
terrible, great job we did making this DAG.
Yeah.
This nightmare DAG.
We also, DBT Slack is going to be the place that you want to go if you want to start conversations, but we also did open up a discussion board if you want to take it out of Slack and just have a place just for like refactoring. Yeah, so thank you, everybody.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
You also do have access to the project and BigQuery for the rest of the week, so please dig in, refactor it. If you want us to review your code, ping us.
Yep.
Open a PR.
All of the resources should be there, all the data sets that you need, everything.